The cartridge itself is a genius idea, but the simple fact that the kind of the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about, or at least maybe everybody's just getting used to, and I just can't, is the fact that they do not connect. And that lack of connection causes a lot of problems, some that can be overcome, some that can be dealt with. All of it can be dealt with. But I do find that I get a lot of weird stray lines. I'm like, oh, that's a cool like angle on that curve. It looks cool, but I sure didn't mean to do it. And it's because if you look at them close, and I'd really get down where I measure my throw. I've got like an actual microscope with a light on it, and I get down there and measure everything. And I'll run the machine to make sure the throw is doing everything right. And you can see with all of the cartridges, all of the brands that I've used, and I think I've gone through four, maybe five brands so far, and they stutter and they move. And just the same, if you grab the end of it and you wiggle it back and forth, it moves. And that's what the tension of the skin does. When it stabs and it pulls at the side and we're moving with it, it bends and pulls that thing with it. And that's why we have so many line issues. If you wanted to change the linkage and fix that elephant in the room problem that honestly, I don't think this whole setup we're using is ever going to really evolve to that high-end stuff until somebody fixes that. The simple fact that I'm any size liner, I'm moving, especially in the fine, it's really obvious on the fine lines. It's making the same movement on big lines. It just, the line's so big it swallows it up and you don't see it. But it gets these crooked wobbles. Somebody's skin changes texture in spots, which they all do. You get a random tough spot or something like that. You going around a curve or arc, even if you've got great technique and you're keeping your machine really nice and parallel and perpendicular, and everything is right, it still will catch a little something and just get a little wiggle, or you'll go back in the same spot and it'll just decide, no, I'm going to go slightly to the side of the other line I just did. Now, rather than reinforcing a slightly light line, now I have a double width light line. If we're talking about that high end of that scale, the 8, 9, 10 on the technical lining scale, single pass, easy lines, that's the unicorn. That's what everybody wants to get. That's what we're all hopefully aiming for. And I don't think will happen unless somebody can find a way to make the little plunger actually, have some kind of a claw or a cup that actually fully attaches enough to where it can't allow that side to side movement.
Having this conversation with Carson, when he was designing the cam system and how much you can ramp those cams, because like you're saying, like you ramp the cam to an extent that a cartridge literally is like sprung off like a trampoline and loses the cam altogether, which obviously will amplify the issue you're talking about, and then it lands back on the cam and gets this kind of bounce, and so you end up with a lot of chatter in there. It's completely impossible for him to plan for that because all these cartridges are coming in bulk with tons of different plastics, tons of different mechanisms that make them work, and all you can say if you're building a machine and trying to make it as best it can be is like buy the highest quality cartridges you have. It would be nice if there was some type of a tensioning measurement on cartridges, whether it's membrane or rubber band or whatever.
There's no reason we can't just use the same kind as a spring tension gauge and figure it out. It does need to be standardized. The problem is everybody's just doing their own thing and they're figuring it out, which is fine. They're figuring it out a lot more than I am. But I think all of us who are kind of in the soup right now, we can see that's it. That's where things get fixed. That's where things elevate to the next level. And the guy, whether that's Carson or Franco or whoever else wants to actually put in the work to get that, they are going to own the landscape. Whoever does that makes all the other brands obsolete.